What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to FudgeMuppet. It's Scott here with Michael.
And today we have played The Outer Worlds and we've got lots and lots of things to say about it. Now, this isn't a formal review per se, it's more of a thoughts video, but we're going to be diving into a variety of topics after, I guess, almost 3 playthroughs of experience. I've got a playthrough, Scott has a playthrough plus many other half playthroughs.
It's a playthrough, and then I loaded back about like 2/3 of the way through to do sort of some other options, and then I sort of done like another half playthrough, and also another like quarter playthrough that you're seeing here on the screen anyway to test out. We're also going to keep this spoiler free so that we don't spoil it for any of you. And then, but yeah, so we're going to go through our thoughts in a bit of a structure, so we're gonna like break it down a bit so we can sort of talk about it. But yeah, let's start with role playing. So the role playing's all really good. There's lots of dialogue, lots of opportunity to express your own character the way you want to, whether you want to just be an absolute bastard to everyone, or whether you want to be sort of a nice smooth talker. You can just be a chronic liar. You can be an idiot if you like.
And
if
you can mix it up.
Yeah.
You can mix it up and mess with people as well. Like, I found it was quite free flowing in terms of what personality you wanted your character to have.
Yeah.
So in that aspect, I really liked it. I also liked that at the start, they give you a kind of choice as to what your past was. Not that it really counts for much.
Yeah, it's a very small bonus.
Very, very small. Suspiciously small.
Yeah, it's like +1 to a skill, or like 3% minus 3% to a damage type. So like you take 3% less corrosive damage or shock damage or whatever. It's very low. It's just a little role-playing
It's a bit humorous
flavor
as well.
Yeah. But beyond just the dialogue, there's lots and lots of opportunities to sort of sneak in and hack and do this way, or just shoot your way through, or a combination of both. Or like there's kind of, generally if you went to a quest and you're like, I want to do this quest this way, you generally could. There wasn't a lot of like limitations, which is good.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's a really good thing. But yeah, I guess role playing is a pretty broad topic, so we're going to end up like talking more about it as we go through the other topics. But it's a good role-playing game, so...
Yeah, and overall, I would say The Outer Worlds is a good game. Like, I really liked it.
Yeah, it's a really good game. It's just...
It's not exceptional.
Yeah. We've got plenty of criticism, but also lots of good to talk about. But so the story's good. The story's just... It's really good. It's not insane. It's pretty straightforward. It's got a cool revelations in there. It's like... It's more of a vehicle for the role-playing, which is really, really good.
And it's all supported by the world building and stuff as well. All the different factions and interactions and companions and all of that stuff that makes your playthrough feel more epic than it is.
Yeah, and speaking of the companion sort of selection is really good. Like, all of the companions are good, but none of them are particularly, like, amazing. Like, other games, like there's some other games like, you know, Knights of the Old Republic or New Vegas, both done by Obsidian, Knights of the Old Republic 2, I mean, but also like compared to Mass Effect, or it kind of doesn't stand.
They're not amazing. I would put them on par with Fallout 4's characters, probably, in terms of who they are and their backstories and things like that. It's just that I did connect with them quite well, because you will find in The Outer Worlds that your companions do comment on a lot of things. They often do say, hey, can I talk to you about a decision that you just made?
Yeah.
You can often ask them in moments, what do you think of this? And then ask your other companion, and what do you think of this? And they'll tell you what they think. And the people that you talk to, the NPCs in the game, also address your companions completely differently depending on who you bring and what kind of situation you're in.
Yeah, because it was like the case in, I think, Fallout 4, where your companion just sort of says an offliner about what's being said, but no one really cares that they're there. Like, the person you're talking to doesn't acknowledge the companion statement, but they always acknowledge each other. Like, they even talk back and forth, like conversations between your two companions in the context of the quest dialogue that you're going through.
Yeah, it's an advantage of having more than one companion, like in Fallout 4. So in a way, I would rate them as better than Fallout 4, but I know, like, on a standalone basis, like if you looked at who they are, their backstory, what they think about the world, they're just as fleshed out.
Yeah.
It's just there's more on show in The Outer Worlds. There's more examples for them to be like, hey, I'm here, I exist, I'm a companion. And you're very aware of their presence all the time.
100% recommend using them too. Like I'm playing like a lone wolf character now, and it is much better with the companions around there, because there's so much value in just the little comments they say and the interactions. It's all, yeah. So definitely recommend doing companions first time around. But the companions don't really seem to leave you. Like I was kind of, this is kind of a bit of a theme with Outer Worlds. I don't know how to feel about it yet because I haven't played through enough. But some of the choices and consequences don't seem like polarized enough. Like, so basically, there's two characters, Pavati and Vicamax. And Vicamax is a big standout companion. He's probably the best of all of them, I think.
I really
like, he's the most
him.
Interesting. But we got to the point where there's this sort of decision that's kind of like, that I was made to do by the board, that they're basically the antithesis of what they would want. And they made this big fuss about it, right? But then I went and did the thing, and then they just didn't give a shit. And I was sort of expecting them to try and like leave me or something. I had a bit of a beef with one of the characters, Felix, but like that wasn't even related to that. It was just sort of in general.
Yeah, and like unlike other games, you can't really change your companions that much. You can kind of help them resolve a certain way they feel or view a situation, like when it comes to their companion quests and things like that. But it's not like a Star Wars game where you can make them a dark Sith Lord. Like they kind of have their ideologies.
Yeah.
And there's not a whole lot you can do about it.
It's kind of a theme. I feel like the Outer Worlds in the design, I don't know what was going on, but I feel like it's a really good role-playing game. I want to reaffirm that. It's a really good game, but obviously, you know, coming off New Vegas and Knights of the Old Republic 2, like the expectations are kind of high, but they seem to have dialed down the choice and consequence a bit to make it easier. So you know, companions won't leave you and stuff. And another thing is sort of factions. Like it's very easy to just sort of make all of the factions like you. Like you kind of have to intentionally like, I'm making this decision that this faction will hate me afterwards.
Yeah.
Like it's very easy to just sort of play them all off.
One thing I will say as well is it's not necessarily that the choices are limited if you think about it. There are heaps of choices. It's something I would commend the game for. But it is the second half. It's the consequence part, I think.
Yeah.
Like there are heaps of choices. Like you can do it this way, that way. You can make an alliance between these. You can change the leadership of one and do this and that. But the consequences for them aren't really felt. When they are felt a bit is at the end. There is a title end screen where they say this happened to this person, this happened to this
New
faction.
Vegas style.
New Vegas style. But I would have preferred to see more of it in the game. There's still a good amount. Like the thing is, I don't want this to come across to the audience that, oh, there's no choice and consequence. Because there is.
Yeah.
It's just not an exceptional degree of it.
Basically, I'd say, so I'm going to say a thing. This game should be twice the length. Now,
Yes.
we're going to talk about the world building and sort of parts later, but by the time of the end game slides and sort of telling me the ending, I didn't feel like incredibly invested like I have in the other games. And it's not because the world building's bad. It's actually really good, but we'll get to that. But I think we'll try and like knock through some of the gameplay related things first. But the combat, it's a bit stiff. It's like better than New Vegas. It's not like people are like, oh, it looks like New Vegas. It's a bit stiff. It's not as good as, you know, like Borderlands 3 or modern shooters and stuff like that. But it's serviceable. It's like, you know, it's not the main appeal of the game. It's the role playing.
And it's good though. It still feels visceral.
Yeah. And
like I'm playing a melee character, and when I kill someone, and I use a lot of time dilation, which is a feature that allows you to slow time, it feels great. Like I really feel the collision with people. And I slice their limbs off and things like this.
It was a really good idea to have the time dilation in there, because that actually does make some of those, like, you still have, despite it being a bit stiff, you have some of those kind of movie moments. Like really early on, there was these two guys that were like, oh, you know, is this your ship? It's illegal to have it there or whatever. And then I just said, I'm going to attack them, and then I quickly time dilated and like gunslinger like shot their two heads, and it was like, that's a cool moment. Like,
and it's not even a significant moment. It's just a little thing.
Like I found the game, and for other reasons we'll sort of talk about more, but it was pretty easy in terms of the combat. And that can vary, and the AI aren't incredibly smart. They're not like stupid. They're just you can outsmart them.
They're
easily.
very normal.
Yeah, they're very like straightforward. I also did trial supernova mode a bit, and it didn't seem to be that much harder either. But it seems, I don't know how I feel about supernova mode yet, because it's a bit inconvenient because you can't save.
Yeah, to explain the mode quickly, you basically need, it's like a survival mode, kind of. You can't fast travel.
You can only fast travel to your ship.
You can fast travel to your ship. You can only save in your ship.
Yeah, manually save in your
ship. And there are plenty of autosaves still.
Yeah, and it says it limits autosaves, so I don't know if it's one.
And you have to eat and drink and all of that.
That's not.
And you can only sleep in the bed on the bed on your ship.
Yeah. So
So far, it feels a bit like a hassle to you, does it? Like it doesn't really feel...
yeah, I don't know if there's the power. Like I don't know if I'll even commit to doing it. I don't know, maybe for a build or something. But let's talk about the stuff that surrounds the combat and stuff, which is all the levels, the skills, the perks, the flaws. You tell me your experience first.
Well, I played a melee character. So I went very high on like strength and dexterity. And also, and what I liked about that is how that affected my starting skills. So like, because I had high strength, I had good intimidate, for example. So you can min-max it. Like you'll know here at FudgeMuppet, we like min-maxing builds. The problem seemed to be, and I figured this out quite early, was that an all-rounder build kind of works out better because when you min-max your skills, you get some really high and some really low. And they have this feature where instead of picking individual skills, you pick categories of skills to level up. And then once you get any of the skills, not all of them, just one of them hits 50, then you have to spec into them individually. So if one of the categories is dialogue and I have high intimidate but low persuade and low lie, when I spec into that, they all go up 1 point. Intimidate hits 50 really quickly, and then persuade and lie are really low, and I have to take them up individually. Whereas
well, you can take the dialogue, but it will only increase those two.
Of them,
it won't increase your intimidate anymore.
That is correct.
But
but still,
it's not as...
You end up with more total skill points if you start as an all-rounder because you have more opportunities to pick 3 at once.
Yeah.
And I noticed that in some ways, especially with companions, which you'll talk about, there did seem to be a limit as far as skills became useful. There was a point of diminishing returns where it's like, okay, I have 80 in this skill or I have 60 in this skill. I do not need more.
Yeah.
For damage, like I said, I played a melee character. You better believe I had 100 in my melee skill because it's essential. And I ended up getting 100 in things like Persuade, but you don't even need that.
Yeah, because I mean, my experience was I completely cheesed it. So basically there's this really broken ability, I guess, of the skill. Like you get different sort of unlocks as you upgrade the skill at like 20, 40, 60. So at 60 inspiration, so I was going like sort of a charisma sort of based character and the dialogue and a bit of intelligence sort of, you know, that kind of stuff. But I got to 60 and it basically, so your companions give you a bonus to your skills when you have them with you. So like Vic and Max will like give like hacking and something else. And they basically, and you can also increase those through their perks. But there's this skill and inspiration, which makes it so all of their like player skill bonuses to your skill give you, it increases by 100%. So you sort of take their like, you know, 20 or like 17 or whatever in a bonus, which is already pretty high in hacking, for example, that then becomes, you know, nearly 40 kind of thing or 37 or whatever. And then when you combine that with gear, I basically ended up in a situation where I had like, basically sort of 50s in like hacking, science, lockpicking, medical, engineering, stuff like that. But effectively, they were all high 80s and 90s, if not hundreds, because of certain combinations I could do with gear. And there's also a crazy perk for that as well, which doubles their abilities, well. but their skill bonuses. But basically, I only had to have 50 and a whole bunch of things. By the end of the game, I regretted going so much into Persuade because like effectively a lot of the time I had like 146 Persuade. And it's like, you don't need that. Like that's the other thing. I don't feel like a lot of the 100, at least in the sciencey sort of tech-based things, their opportunities don't come up enough to really take advantage of them, like the diminishing return. So it seems like you're much better off going around the 50, 60 kind of level and then using your gear and your companions to just boost the shit out of it. With Inspiration 60, you need the Inspiration 60 to get that benefit. But I ended up sort of playing like I was a really good sneaking, really good at hacking, really good at lockpicking by the end because of all of the things.
As someone who wasn't, because I didn't go into inspiration like that, I can tell you that you can still do things. Like I could still use guns and a gun's a gun. So I could kill people with it. You know what I mean? As much as I was melee, I would still keep a hunting rifle around to scope in and take the first headshot because why not?
Yeah. The companions are actually just functionality. Like I was in a situation where this kind of ended up breaking it a little bit, I guess, because I was really good at combat despite having below average strength and sort of average dexterity and really low combat skills, because I had guns that were upgraded to like, you know, insane levels, and all of my companions had all of their stuff upgraded super high as well, and I had heaps of money to support all of the upgrades.
It's definitely
and
an
mods.
OP way to play.
Yeah, it's a very, so if you want the OP way, inspiration 60, and then like basically
keep your eyes out for a build.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, so we'll play around with that, but. So I ended up doing a pretty OP one straight off the bat.
Now, as far as perks are concerned, there are some pretty interesting perks. Like I went all into like a very fast time dilation, speed, high risk, high return kind of thing. Like if I kill people, I get health back and I get time dilation back, which allows me to slow time more.
Yeah.
And I was very fast, even faster with this time dilation on. So essentially I was running around, and because I had the dodge skill quite high, jumping around constantly, doing different power attacks, different like sweep attacks, like all kinds of things like that. But it did get to a point where the perks didn't feel super helpful or special. Like it was never a big opportunity cost, and I didn't feel heaps invested. It was kind of like, oh, what am I going to pick? Yeah, I'll get that one. That one seems pretty good.
It's like when you play most games, like most RPGs, I'm generally like, oh shit, what am I going to pick? Like in New Vegas, I'm like, oh shit, I've got a plan. I've got this level and this level, this level, or Borderlands. Like you're sort of thinking like really trying to be like, you know, conservative with your skill. This one I was just like, oh yeah, I'll get that one, because most of them aren't. They're all like
all good.
They're just nothing exciting. Like
and they're
I don't feel like I missed them.
straightforward.
Yeah.
And they're not role-playing focused either. The perks are, I'm pretty sure, 100% gameplay focused.
Yeah, pretty much. I think so.
Like,
yeah.
and, including companions and
outside
stuff.
of the ones that do like companion, no companions, you get 25% more damage, like lone wolf style.
Yeah, but these
things.
are gameplay.
But yeah,
they're still
all
gameplay related.
Some of the perks for the actual companions are interesting. Like we had there's a companion which basically had like a perk that you pick, and it decreases the negative reputation that you get for killing people of a certain faction.
Right, okay.
It seems kind of niche. Like I don't know how useful it actually would be, but it was a cool role-playing thing, and when you find that character, you'll understand why.
Another thing, speaking about perks, is flaws. So as you're playing the game, you may take a certain damage type or something may happen to you, and then you will have a flaw identified, and it may say, after taking lots of damage from these certain creatures, you are now liable to take more damage from these creatures and be bad in combat against them in a variety of ways should you accept this flaw, but you will get 1 perk point to spend. Now, it is a good system, like I like it. The only thing is I got to a point kind of in the end game where it felt less impactful, in the sense of like, I'm creaming everything. I'll be like, yeah, I'll be 25% less effective than this. I don't care. But also it got to a point where I don't really need any more perks.
Yeah, so I took like a drug addiction one, and that was easy to counteract because I had heaps of like drugs. Basically, I could just keep going. And there was one that was like a acrophobia or something, fear of heights, because I fell from a height and nearly killed myself. So that was decent. Then you get some perk points, but I think the solution, the fix would be is making the perks actually so good. Like, oh shit, I don't want to waste a single perk point. So when you do get that opportunity to have a flaw, you're like, yeah, it's worth it. I need that perk point. But it kind of doesn't feel like that. The perks just aren't good enough to justify
and make the flaws heavier.
Yeah.
I think they need to polarize in both ways.
Yeah, for sure.
Make the perks better and the flaws harsher.
But yeah, so upon our first sort of playthroughs of it, it kind of seems like there's, you know, the combat proficiency style of playing, or the one that's kind of, there's ways to do it that you're good at everything. Like, I don't really feel that inspired to go and play a character that's just specifically good at engineering and, you know, medical or something like that, because I can play one that kind of has this high inspiration skill and then kind of like balances them all, but gets them to effectively like high 100s and 80s and stuff like that.
There are advantages in conversation to having very high specific skill numbers.
And also the attributes. They do actually put some of those
a lot like perception check, dexterity check, think charm and all this kind of stuff.
So they were in there, which was good.
I liked that.
I did like playing a high charm character. Like it did beyond just being good at persuade or whatever.
And dialogue's really useful.
Yeah, they've done a really good job with the dialogue. It's that's all completely off chops. But yeah, ultimately, my last sort of point on the thing is that the skills system that they went for, where you can put into a category of skill, I think it kind of backfires. And this is kind of the theme for Outer Worlds, I feel like they should have polarized a bit more and made it so you have to specialize into these skills more, so that there's basically more replayability, especially because it is a shorter game.
Which is definitely something we want to talk about.
Yes,
but now let's talk about the game length.
Yeah.
So in Scott's playthrough, he finished it, and mind you, you were playing a character who had all the quick speech check this and like all the charisma stuff, which is really handy.
And the companions made combat a breeze.
And the companions made
with
combat
all the
a breeze.
good gear and stuff and the inspirations. Like my setup,
Now, from what I hear, and don't quote me on it, but I assume it was 30 to 40 hours of gameplay.
Yeah, 30 to 40 hours is what they said before.
Okay, and you finished it in 15 hours.
Yeah,
and you did plenty of side quests.
So
you didn't do all of them, but you did a good amount.
No, I did most side quests, all the faction quests that I could, that I think you could. Like, you know, as you said, you did the same ones, and and then I did all of the companion quests. I basically played off both sides right up until the kind of end, basically.
So you were doing like additional content.
Yeah,
anyway.
and I hit the level cap of 30. Like there's. I did, like, I was talking to every single quest giver that was in my way. I went and talked to them, did their quest, and pretty much, like, you know, I left like one or two at the end because I'm like, oh, I just want to see the ending or whatever. Well, this is the thing. I wasn't expecting the ending going ahead of the main. I'm like, oh, I'm sort of done doing some sides for a bit. I'm going to go do the main. Then I went and did the main. I'm like, oh, wait, shit, this is the end game. It's like, oh, save. This is the point of no return. I'm like, are you, what? Yeah. Like, I was sort of like...
For me, I kind of expected it, but I think it's just because you told me in advance.
Yeah.
But I will say that, like, for example, with my character, I was only level 26 when I finished the game, 26 or 27.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't pick those perks that you got to make you get more XP from companion kills, which obviously makes a difference. But also playing melee, sometimes it just took me longer to fight through places. Yeah. But even still, I took my time enough. Like, I didn't feel like I rushed it. I did plenty of side quests.
Yeah.
Sometimes because I didn't have a persuade option unlocked, I had to do things the long way. And for me, I think I finished it in about 21 to 22 hours. I know there are some side quests that I could still do. I think if I were to do them all, it would be 25 hours.
I think the fairest assessment, because I think I went like, just by circumstance of the combat being easy and the sort of choices I made, I feel like 15 was like on the quick end. It's probably more, the most honest, I think, to doing like most of the stuff is between 20, 25. And I would say that if you were to give the hour figure, I would say it's between 20 and 30 hours. 30 hours is like, yeah, you've done everything.
Like, you're playing the game stoned as well.
Yeah, like
you're really chilled out.
Yeah, like you've done everything. The 30, I don't buy the 30, 40 hours. That's a bit like, yeah, that's a bit of an overestimation. But yeah, so the problem, this is going to like sort of connect into some of the other things we'll talk about in a sec, because we've kind of got to like jump around points a little bit. But essentially, it feels like it's really, really, really great, but then it just cuts short. It feels like it should be twice the length, or at least another third. But yeah, we'll come back to that.
I want some DLC.
Yeah, for sure. That might help pad it out a bit more.
Because I liked it. I just wanted, it left me wanting more.
Because this is the thing too. Not one point in Outer Worlds was I like, I'm bored, or is this tedious? Like none of it was not boring, not tedious. It was just this enjoyable thing, and I was loving it. But then it's like all of the fat's cut, but then there's just not enough meat still. Like, I'm still left hungry. Like, there's it's really good, but I just need more. Like, to really connect to it. But anyway, I mean, other things we've got to touch on is just weapons and gear, and there's plenty of customizability. It's sort of like New Vegas. You only have like an armor slot and a head slot, but and there's legendaries and stuff. But
yeah, there are uniques, but I will say overall, for someone who plays RPGs like a lot, weapon variety is not high. Yeah. And armor variety is not high. Yeah. There's enough. Like, you're not going to be like, oh, there's only 3 weapons in the game. And it all looks
really cool. Like, aesthetically, there's lots of cool options. Great. But
there's just not a ton of it.
It's not the kind of thing where you have a build and it's like, I'm going to model it around this particular kind of armor. It's like, oh, you could probably use like any of these 3 or whatever. Yeah. It's that kind of thing. It's also like... yeah, like the modded gear as well, combined with, you know, the aforementioned companion inspiration, sort of all-rounder mix is just, it's just OP. And, you know, there's also some, like, they did a good job of hiding some weapons and gear and stuff just around the place randomly. Like, it's not all quest related.
Like unique
which
stuff.
I like a lot. But yeah. And, I mean, speaking about the cool looking gear, the environments are the same. Like, exploring everything aesthetic wise and feel wise is all really, really cool.
The worlds are
architecture
really,
cool.
really cool.
Yeah, and I guess we'll just talk about the world building now, which is just, it's really, really great. Even in the first area in Edgewater, you're just sort of set up, like you want to keep learning more and more about the world, and it kind of unfolds at a nice pace, and like you really, you get into it. It's really good.
And there's plenty of factions for you to explore and factions to meet. Like, I don't want to spoil too much, but for example, Monarch was a very good planet in terms of the faction setup.
Yeah.
But then there's other factions that you can just do quest lines for. When I say quest lines, I'm not talking like the Thieves Guild of Skyrim. I'm just saying, like, you know, 3 quests that lead up to a peak. But there are lots of smaller factions with little reputations and people to help and gain on your side.
Yeah. I was worried that they were going to go far too satirical and like sort of memey in that, but they didn't at all. Any of the sort of wacky kind of like corporate codes and contracts and all that kind of stuff, I completely accept because the world building's done so well. Like, it's really, it naturalizes
really good.
you. Yeah.
It struck that perfect balance of like, that's hilarious, but I'm taking this really seriously as well.
Yeah, it's not you don't, it doesn't feel jarring. You're not watching a meme compilation.
Yeah,
it's
pretty good.
It's very well integrated. So I was really happy with that. The writing's really good.
Yeah,
the writing's
it
really
is.
good. Like we mentioned before, the story is straightforward. It's a good story, and the companions feel like, you know, they're straightforward, they're good, but there's no like that amazing like flavor to them, but they're all still good and well written.
Super epic.
Yeah.
Like, it's just fun and good, but it could never reach that 9 out of 10. Like, it was constantly just like, this is an 8 out of 10 punching through the whole
think
way.
about the end. We won't say anything, but I just will say that it doesn't feel like it has the same climax as, say, New Vegas and Hoover Dam, the Battle of Hoover Dam. That's kind of been like, his tension's been boiling the whole time, or you know, obviously like Knights of the Old Republic 2 and stuff like that, or Mass Effect. But you know,
it was still cool.
Comparisons,
It's cool.
But yeah, there was all kinds of cool stuff. The scientism sort of stuff. The whole religion about the made out science, which is essentially determinism on steroids, and with this idea of the plan. Like, that was really cool. And then there's this other religious group, like the Philosophers, which like everything's all chaos and stuff like that. It's a cool like combination. And then there's certain factions that are born out of those things.
And you hear them bicker and actually make good points to one another. Like, it's quite deep in that aspect. And I really liked the characterization in terms of how dialogue would work on different people. Like, if you met a rough person, you could just tell them some heaps rude stuff as a like option, like an intimidate option, but they liked you for it.
Yeah, that was nice.
You're
that
speaking
it's not
their language.
Every time you make a like, if you insult someone, it's not always going to result in them wanting to kill you. Like straight away, they might like respect it or something like that. So there's varied responses. But yeah, and the religions, I think, was a really good idea that they did essentially determinism versus free will, because what it, and like united consciousness kind of stuff, is because what it boiled down to is it's just sort of like, they're really approachable because they're kind of like a real philosophical debate in our life. So it's not like, you know, here's this heebie-jeebie God and all this kind of stuff. It didn't get too complex. So you could kind of accept it without, you know, and just sort of get to the meat of it. But so there's some other like, so the world building is all great.
And the way that you can affect the world is definitely there.
Yeah.
It's not super intense, but it's 100% there.
Yeah.
Like, you go to a planet or a location, you do the quests, you pick your option, you come back to this place, you changed it.
Yeah.
Not hugely aesthetically or anything, but you definitely affected it. And one quick note, I really like how you could play the game in a different order.
Yes.
It's something I wanted to talk about. So when I played, basically you're told to go somewhere to get something, and then it's told to you, oh, there is this other way, but it's crazy dangerous. Like, do not go there, 100%. Like, you will die. And I picked it. Like, I was like, no, I'm going there. And even on the landing pad, it's like, dangerous, do not land. And, you know, I land on this planet and I run through some dangerous shit. Like, you'll be going through this stuff easily, killing it when you go there properly. But I was like level 4 or level 5, and I just sprinted through it all the way to the main city from this dangerous landing pad.
Yeah.
And then I did all of the things on this planet that you went to much later. And then I ended up, the last location I saw was one of the earlier ones you saw.
Yeah, one of the early ones.
One of the first locations you saw was an end game location for me.
Yeah. So like, I guess that's kind of where, like,
And it felt special because everywhere I'd been, I don't want to spoil too much, but everywhere I'd been was a run down. And then I get to this last location and it's like, wow, this is beautiful.
Like there's lots of like choice. I guess a lot of the choice comes down to the ways you want to approach things, what order, how you do the quests, all that kind of stuff. Like there's also kind of like another note I wanted to talk about, but you know, I mean, it's probably obvious you can join up with a board, right? So I joined up with them basically, and then there was a side quest that I was doing for another faction, and I kind of got like a group of the corporate soldiers were coming to attack me, and they're like, oh, you're going to be detained and all this kind of stuff. But because I was already further ahead in the main quest and had sort of joined up with the board, I could just name drop that basically, and they'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm basically going to bugger off. So it didn't feel like the side quests were isolated from the main quest. Like all your progress in the main quest is reflected in the side quests around it. Like I could name drop the board all the time, like heaps. Yeah. Like or the person I was working with.
And there's always options to use, I will say, persuade, lie, intimidate, heaps. Yeah. It's not like this rare skill that won't get used. So I would recommend speccing into it.
Yeah, 100% really. But like I said, I guess all our big problems with it, this is a really, really, really great game. It's just not big enough for the long term. Like I'm sort of worried about the replayability a little bit. Now, I can't really say, like I might be completely wrong. We might play a bunch more and then realize it's there. But every time I made a decision, I could generally guess the outcome of the other and not really like, I feel like it's going to get, the replayability comes in more in the ordering of things and the sort of like, I guess more polarizing decisions you make. Like, I'm just going to kill this whole faction because I don't want this one. And like
I
stuff
think,
like
I
that.
think an anarchist playthrough, like a very heavy anarchist playthrough would be quite fun.
Yeah. But like, it's kind of thing, it's like there's basically, like, I won't talk too much about how many sides and stuff, but it's kind of like, you know, the board, when I'm sort of joining the board, it's just like this concept of the board, but there's like only one or two like kind of representatives I'm dealing with. Like I didn't get to sort of talk to all of the CEOs or like play them off against one another. There wasn't sort of the complexities of different factions as much. Like there's kind of like the
complexity in the faction, but not between them.
Yeah. It's kind of
in a way.
Yeah, it's look. You'll have to play and find out for yourself. There's a lot of things that they could have done. I don't know, like there could have been all these kind of time constraints and stuff. Like, you know, if they had companions, for example, that will only join you if you are this faction or make these decisions, or will leave you if you do this thing. Like it, basically I feel like because of the time of the game and how long, brief it is in the grand scheme of things, they could have gone way more polarizing with skill choices and stuff, with factions. Like if you help this faction, the other one will find out and they will despise you, or, you know, or this companion, and, you know, so on.
Yeah. Like you can literally do all these side quests for a faction, get them to love you, and then kill their leader in front of everyone. And pretty much they'll just be like, oh, he's a bit weird, but we still like him. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I guess overall, I just say it's a really, really great game, and it's just
like it's a solidly good game.
Yeah, it's a solid. Like that's a better way to put it. What would make it?
Don't oversell.
I don't want to oversell it either. I would say it would be an amazing game if it was twice the length.
Yep.
If it was twice the length, that's what it needed. Because every moment of the game, if I was to say, I enjoyed every moment of it. Yeah. I was kind of just pissed when I finished it in 15 hours. I was kind of like, what the fuck? But like, whereas, you know, and then there's extra side quests and stuff. But, you know, for me, that was like an extra, you know, couple of hours on top. So
yeah, for sure. I think that's at the end of the day, it's a good game. It's just that we're a little disappointed by the opportunity that it could have been. Yeah. Like it missed out on some things it could have nailed while still being a good game.
Yeah. But overall, great role-playing game. Like, I mean, definitely considering like what's out
like
and
it's a
about
buy.
right now.
Like you like get it.
Yeah, definitely. It's a really, really good game. We're going to be doing stuff for it, making content for it, builds and stuff. We'll need a bit more time to sort of play around with some more, and we need to sort of play through a few more times to sort of understand how much choice and consequence is there, because there could be way more than we thought. Like, but we can't really discuss that without spoilers and stuff, so we don't want to like go into it. But overall, if you're on the fence about it, I definitely recommend getting it if you're into RPG. If you've played New Vegas and you like New Vegas, get it. This is New Vegas in space, essentially, with some refinements, and then kind of smaller, but then the factions are all really great. The world building's all really good. The ways you go about things, yeah, it's just a good game. But there's definitely things we could maybe do a video about what it can improve or something. But
yeah, it's not as good as New Vegas, but
No.
it's still good.
yeah, but yeah.
Anyway, thanks for listening. It's been a long while, but we hope you enjoyed the video. And we look forward to nerding out with you again very soon.